So today we're going to talk about chemical hazard communication. So our first topic is, what is an SDS? Previously, SDSs were known as MSDSs, or Material Safety Data Sheets. Originally they were called safety data sheets, but they've evolved a little bit. So essentially, a safety data sheet contains potential health effects of exposure to chemicals and safe working procedures for when chemical hazards are present. Safety data sheets must be current and provided to workers in the workplace. Essentially, safety data sheets can also assist physicians in creating care plans and enable workers to handle chemicals properly. The safety data sheet has 16 sections, 15 of which are mandatory, and the 16th section can vary chemical to chemical. So we're just going to talk a little bit about each section. Section 1 of the MSDS will be product identification, so it'll have the product's name, common names or synonyms for which it's known by, the address of the manufacturer and things like this. Section 2 is the hazard identification, so it has the placards, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Section 3 is the information on ingredients and what's included in the chemical. Section 4 is the first aid measures. So this is the important section that we as chemists are worried about. So this is how we stay safe when we're handling the chemicals. Section 5 is firefighting, in case you're dealing with a flammable chemical. Section 6 is what happens if the chemical is spilled, how we clean it up essentially. Section 7 is all about the storage of the chemical and what you do when you're done with the chemical and you need to put it away and keep it safe. Section 8 is more of that and the things you should wear when handling the chemicals. 9 and 10 go together. They're the physical and chemical properties. So they talk about solubility, melting points, reactivity, all of the properties of the chemical. Section 11 through 15, we're not so much worried about as undergraduate chemists, but essentially they're what you do when you dispose of the chemical in the lab, or when you're at home and you need to throw it in the trash, or maybe not throw it in the trash. And then section 16 always varies as to what that is, and it's chemical dependent. So our next topic is the globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals. So we have 3 different agencies. One is the National Fire Protection Agency, and this is essentially placards that you'll find on buildings, on doors, outside, so that emergency responders know what to do when they arrive on scene. The second department is the Department of Transportation, and this provides information about hazards to transportation workers. And then lastly, we have OSHA, or the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which provides information about hazards to workers using chemicals under normal conditions of use. So in general, this is what a National Fire Protection Agency placard looks like. It will always have 4 corners and will be color-coded accordingly. These are a couple more examples, but you'll see the numbers in each corner and they each mean something different. 4 is going to be the highest level of vulnerability for a chemical. So essentially 4 is like dangerous, you want to stay away from it. And then 0 means that there's no hazard at all. And if you can see in the bottom corner where it's white labeled in the diamond, there's a W with a strike through it, which means that you should not use with water or anywhere water is around. Pictured here, you'll see a few of the second department that we talked about, the Department of Transportation placards. And these will be found on trucks and packages that are traveling. And this is what an up-close symbol looks like. You'll always have that number in the middle, which is the 4-digit ID number, and you'll always have the hazard symbol at the top. So the symbol on this placard is a flame, which stands for flammable. The placards will always be diamond in shape and a solid background color. And then this is our third department we talked about, OSHA, so Occupational Safety and Health Administration placards. And these placards are going to be not all solid colors, but mostly. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a few that are stripes or 2 colors, and those are special symbols we'll talk about in a minute. But mainly we're going to focus on the GHS system, which is Globally Harmonized System of Placards, and we're going to talk about the 9 different symbols that are known worldwide. So we're going to start with oxidizers. So this is our globally harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, and this is a system that is known worldwide. Today we'll focus on the 9 placards that they have. So we're going to start left to right, and I think that the pictures are pretty recognizable. So our first one in the top left-hand corner will be explosives, and this is a chemical that explodes when you mix it with heat or anything like that. We have the next one that's flammable liquids, and then oxidizing liquids. If you keep going, the cylinder will be compressed gases, and the last one in the row is corrosive to metals. On the bottom row, you have health hazards all grouped together, and those are pretty self-explanatory. The one that is skin irritation always has the exclamation mark, and it means irritation and inflammation. And then our final hazardous placard is hazardous to the environment, and it always has the tree and the fish. And that was all about chemical hazard communication placards.